month. I mean, we still got those keys for Half-Life Alyx went out recently, and we don't have. I don't know. Do you know what the embargo is for that yet?
I do. The embargo date is on Juvember 17th, and people are going to lose their mind when they find out about all of the upgrades to the game,
and all the reprojection. Of course, that's going to be a real issue for a lot of people, I think.
Hold on, before you go live, let me just take a couple tokes here, and then I'll be straight for the show.
Hold on, let me. Absolutely. Well, we still got a minute, so I'm going to All right. Hey Wes, I think we're live.
Are we live? Oh no, not again.
Listen, no one's paying attention. No one's paying attention. Let's just do this. Ready? Ready? Let's go. This is PSVR GamesCast Live. We film live every single Monday, Wednesday, and 2 Eyes Friday right here on PSVR without Parole. We do it live on this YouTube channel, 6 p.m. for your viewing pleasure. We do it on podcast services for all of you who like to watch with your ears. That's Spotify. That's other places. My name is Brian Powell from this channel right here, PSVR without Parole. And this gentleman over here on my right, it's Wes Dillon. He's a virtual stranger. What's going on, my friend?
Another West Day here, man. One up, one down. Exciting as usual, right? West Days are the best. That's when all the cool stuff happens, and today's no exception.
West Days are the best days. Best days.
Word.
Looper, the Underground Game Cat with the €2 says, now you have to restart the live stream. I guess Looper tuned in for, for the mishap over on Virtual Strangers. Did you just tell everyone, shh, don't repeat anything you heard? Is that how that went down?
It was implied. People knew. People knew why we started the stream over. I even took a poll, like, will you please click into the next stream when we start over in 5 minutes? But people were gracious. I mean, we did lose. I mean, immediately we lost half, but within like 20 minutes, we had surpassed the number that we were at. Yep. So we probably piss 5 people off, but for the most part, people were okay with it.
So you lost the bad half, right? I'm always down to lose the bad half. Wes, what is besides chaos with live streams going live earlier than anticipated? What is going on over there at Virtual Strangers? There's lots of crazy shit happening on the PSVR2 side of things in the VR world, but is anything happening in the greater VR universe that you guys are talking about over there?
I mean, there's some stuff going on with PC right now. Steam Next Fest is going on, so there's a ton of demos to play right now. We talked about Next Fest passively last week as some of the titles that were in the Upload VR showcase were titles that we covered a year ago because of one of these Steam Next Fest, the events at Unity Farms, Gazzlers, and so on and so forth. So we're talking about maybe doing the same thing this week and covering that, although I've got some personal stuff happening, so I don't know how that's going to affect our schedule. But I can say this. We've already played the Hellsweeper demo, and dude, you're going to love this game. It's so good.
I mean, I don't need you to spill the beans entirely, but I'm guessing that means better than Sirento.
Yeah, definitely. And the things that you love about Sirento are present here. The game's structured a little bit differently, but the aesthetic's really cool. The movement system is just off the charts crazy, and it's super addictive, and it's one of those things that's easy to pick up but hard to master, right? So like it's a demo that takes about 30-40 minutes to play through, but the second time you play it's more fun than the first time, and like they've even got progression on for it. So like the more times you run the demo, you level your character up and stuff as if you had the whole game going. It's really good, really well done. They've taken forever to polish this thing because we did play it something close to 2 years ago, and it's way better now and finally almost here. But I think a lot of people are going to really enjoy it.
Right, that's got the same release date for Steam, Quest, and PSVR2, right? Like they're launching cross-platform. What is it? Do you remember the release date? It's not that far from now. September.
September 21, I want to say.
Yeah, that does sound right. Good stuff, man. The back half of 2023 is looking pretty sweet.
The front half is already nuts. I was talking to someone about this earlier today, and obviously we'll get into Hubris a little bit later on in the show. But how many Game of the Year candidates have we already had this year? And we're in June. Nuts.
It's true. Yeah, I mean, launch alone, right? Like, I mean, Village and Gran Turismo, right there, contenders for Game of the Year. And if Resident Evil 4 comes out this year, Jesus, dude, like all sorts of shit.
Yeah,
really good. Samson 143 VR. We got to do it, Wes. I want to talk to Samson. Flying to the moon like that bitch Alice crammed in. With $2 tips. You get that out of me for $2. That's not too bad. He says, Happy West Day.
Happy West Day, Samson. Thanks for being here, bro.
I saw Samson before the show started. Says he was playing Hubris. So I'm assuming Samson's in Australia. It's going to be out in some regions at this point. Probably the UK in just a little bit. Who knows? So very, very good. I'm curious. We're going to talk a lot about Hubris in just a minute, but I'm very, very curious to hear what people think about it when they go hands-on with the PSVR2 version. I know a lot of people in my comment section said, "Damn, you had a lot of complaints. How could you possibly give this a 9 out of 10?" And it's just because I'm not that good of a writer is the answer, right? Sometimes like when you're trying to like list off a bunch of small little things that you're complaining about, but then you're trying to really emphasize what a great game it is. Sometimes those two don't feel like they strike the right balance in a review. And then once you hear the response from other people say your review didn't sound like a 9 out of 10, all that means to me is that I got to get better at writing reviews. So thank you everyone for the feedback. But I'm very, very excited to talk about this game, especially with Wes here, because he's had hands-on experience with this game for much longer than the rest of us PSVR2 noobs. Salvador with the $5 tip says dust off the. Oh right. Oh, I completely forgot about that. Right, the intro to without Why We Love episodes. He says, Brian, wait. Wrong show. No, that's it. Roots looked different after restarting the stream, Wes. So because he was high. Was he high?
I think he sobered up real quick after he realized that we were live. I still don't know what happened. I don't know if I accidentally clicked the button or if he went live before I had the screen up and it just automatically put us live. But it was completely unexpected and threw us both off of our game to the point where we had to start over. Like we just had to flush it and start all over again.
It's kind of my worst nightmare, Wes, right? Because I feel like, like comedians, off camera, like I say just fucking dumb shit, man, because I'm always trying to get a laugh out of somebody. And, when you know that it comes from a good place with that, that I have kindness in my heart and I love everybody and whatever, I will say crazy shit about all sorts of people. And so sometimes, there's that little thing in the back of my head, or I've had nightmares certainly about, people getting the wrong impression because maybe we were live when we weren't supposed to be. So I hope it wasn't too bad.
Yeah. I mean, at least that was the good thing, is that there was nothing that was taken out of context. It could have been so much worse, right? If the timing had been off just a little bit, we could be canceled or lose a friend or God knows what.
John Savino in the chat says, "Hey Brian." Hey John. 5 years watching you. Only last week you answered one of my messages. First time on Wes's show and got 4 messages read out. Don't you love me, Brian? John, you're a troll. Stop being such a fucking troll and we'll read out more of your messages. So, I mean, I don't want to have to be the one to tell it like it is, but you a troll. You a troll. Gonna move on. Now let's trying the game feeling with the $5 tip says, hoping this tip gets reprojected by other cats in the chat. Hey, you know what, Wes? I feel. I mean, I really enjoyed having the conversation with AJ on Monday about reprojection. We got a lot of good feedback about that episode. But AJ and I are not the most technical of cats out there, right? And so doing a little research ahead of the show and kind of relying on what other outlets say when they talk about reprojection, and sort of, kind of having to trust what other people are saying. We might not have been the best two people to be doing a show about reprojection. And you hit me up a little bit after the show and with some extra notes. Is there anything? Could this be like a little reprojection addendum right now, Wes? Could you maybe throw a few more facts our way and maybe set any record straight that AJ and I might not have done a great job presenting?
Well, first of all, you guys did do a great job. You guys did an awesome job with the topic, and I love how our channel and our community is growing, and kind of, I mean, I don't want to sound reductive, but kind of catching up to where a lot of the like super ultra enthusiasts have been for a little while now, and learning about the more technical aspect of it. But you guys did a really good job. All I was saying was that for all this talk about how terrible the PlayStation reprojection system is, I think Steam VR is worse in terms of how it performs. The difference being, though, is that with PlayStation, it's completely up to the developer, and it's just either on or it's off, and you can't switch back and forth. It just is what it is. What makes it a little less of an issue on PC versus PlayStation or even Quest is that you can optimize through settings. There are many more settings available to you in PCVR. So the Steam VR reprojection is just notoriously bad. But what you can do about that is just turn your graphics settings down a little bit, and dynamically the game's frame rate will raise. And once you hit a certain threshold, the reprojection will shut off. And it just won't be there anymore. So you can optimize your way out of reprojection, and I think that there might even be an option in Steam VR to turn it off altogether and just have it drop frames. When it can't keep up with the graphics that you're trying to push. But all in all, you all did a great job of explaining what it was and kind of why it happens and what it's like, what it appears like when you experience it in game, and you also did a very good job of explaining that it's a different experience for everyone. Some people aren't very sensitive to it. Some people can't see it at all. Other people fixate on it and can't unsee it after they find out about it. Yeah. And I'm very much like you. Like I didn't know what it was for a long time. Coming from PSVR, I just never it always just this is how games are, right? And until you see a game that isn't using it, and then go back, and then you realize what the difference is. But no, you guys did a great job. My whole point was that it's not like uniquely bad on PlayStation. It's bad everywhere. It's just that PC gives you options to kind of work your way out of it, where console takes those options away, and I guess in an attempt to kind of streamline the experience for players.
Yeah. And that's it's certainly a benefit of being a PC VR gamer, and I can't think of many benefits, to be honest with you, because I have a computer that's completely capable of running decently high-end PC VR stuff, and I just absolutely hate being at my PC or even near my PC or using my PC for anything but work, honestly. Like, and when I do use VR on my PC, it screws up my sound settings, and then GAMESCAST is a complete disaster, more so than usual. And so I just want to stay far away from my PC. But, with this now kind of becoming an issue, like obviously PSVR1 used reprojection as well, and no one ever really talked about it, right? So it does seem like it's more noticeable on PSVR2, and if they can fix that from the firmware side, and please, Wes, just confirm this for me. There's I've gotten so many comments lately from people who are worried they're going to have to buy a new headset. Reprojection is 100% a software issue, can be updated via firmware. This is not something people will need to use a headset for. Confirmed?
Yeah, absolutely. This has absolutely nothing to do with your hardware.
Thank you.
Now, there are things with the hardware that sometimes can present similar issues like nausea and eye strain, that being like the persistence of the screen. This OLED panel apparently has a particularly high persistence, where most modern VR headsets have low, and some people have difficulty with that. Very rare, but there are cases of people who get discomfort from that. But with reprojection specifically, that's 100% software. And you talked yesterday about, or I guess Monday, about how there's supposedly an update coming to kind of fix Sony's reprojection system. I heard the same thing as well. I heard it was told to me in a pretty good bit of technical detail as to what was wrong with the current reprojection system and what they're going to do to fix it. But I don't have that level of technical knowledge, so it all flew right over my head, and I couldn't explain to you what it was that they were trying to convey to me. But I can tell you that it seemed like this person knew what they were talking about when they explained it.
Okay, it's good to hear. It's good to hear. Also good to remember that we're only 4 months in to the PSVR2 lifespan, and we've seen how good it can be. We've also seen, the issues that it can have, and things will just get better in time. So patience and don't freak out,
And I would say for the most part, all games use it differently, and it presents itself differently in these games.
Yep.
The by far vast majority of the games that use it, it's not like a game breaking issue. There's only really a handful of really egregious uses of it. For the most part, it's something that you can see if you look for, but after you get into the gameplay, you just kind of forget about it and go on.
Yeah, I've actually learned this. There's reprojection is so much. There's so much more to it than I think most people are aware, including I didn't realize myself until recently, just how much there was to it. I was talking to a developer, it was yesterday, the day before, something along those lines, and they were teaching me about reprojection layers, right? So just like Photoshop, where you have like layers on top of each other, you can have things in the background, things in the distance, at a certain point in the distance reprojected, whereas everything up close is not. And so it's not just, is there reprojection or isn't there? I know a lot of people are like, guys, when you review a game or when you talk about a game, you have to talk about, what the refresh rate is or the frames per second are, and tell us if there's reprojection. Well, it's not that simple, not always. So kind of bear that in mind. And also a lot of developers just don't want to tell us, what the frame rate is, or if it's using reprojection or what, because now reprojection has a bad name. And so the question is it noticeable? It's a way more important question anyway, as to what, is there reprojection? Maybe, but is it noticeable? That's the question you want to ask.
Yeah, it's an unfortunate situation, because the worst offender in the PSVR2 library also happened to be the one big AAA first party launch title for PlayStation VR2, the one that everyone had hung their hopes on. And then when it kind of presented itself there worse than any other case, it's kind of gave the naysayers and trolls some ammunition. And now it's gotten to the point where it's actually absolutely overblown, and people, people have seen cases like the Light Brigade that, just optimized their way out of it and stopped using it. And now a lot of people are saying, well, if a game has reprojection, I'm not going to play it until it gets fixed. And that's not always going to be the case. And nor should it be, because again, most of the time it's not as big of an issue as people make it out to be. There's some absolutely beautiful titles that have come out and titles that are coming soon that use it. And again, I don't even think about it when I'm playing them. The only reason I know it is because I look for it now, because I know it's going to come up during episodes like this.
Yeah. Well, so now I got to ask you, I guess we're going to transition into our talk about Hubris now. Why not? Since reprojection is, I think, going to be a really, big divisive issue when it comes to this game, because when I started playing it, so when I started playing Horizon at launch, now obviously launch was a different story, right? I didn't notice reprojection as much then, and maybe if I went back in now, I noticed it a whole lot more. Certainly noticed it when I was climbing ledges and stuff, and when the ledge that was nearest me kind of like went away, there was that major ghosting effect there. So I still noticed it at launch, but it just wasn't that big of a deal. From the get-go with Hubris, when I got in there, I was like, oh damn, like everything. Reprojection seems so much worse here, and maybe it was that. Maybe it has to do with layered reprojection. Maybe like everything's reprojected instead of just like the stuff near you. But did you not find it to be an issue in Hubris? Everybody's different. I want to know what your stance on this is.
So this is how it kind of went with me. Like, I made sure to get you review keys the minute that that they had access, and you actually played Hubris before I did on PSVR2, and hearing you talk about this reprojection and you know others, it really scared me. Like I went in with the worst expectations for it. Like, this is going to be Horizon level bad, and I didn't see it at all when I first played it. Like, I didn't see it at all.
Wow.
I couldn't see it, and I started to question at that point if whether it was an intermittent thing, like do certain consoles have it worse than others, like the switchback issue. You know, some consoles it looks really bad, and then other ones it looks good. But for me, it was just beautiful. Like, I didn't even see any reprojection. It wasn't until I got into I think it was chapter 3 or mission 3, the mining level, where you kind of go through caves. There's some swimming in it. It's a very diverse, long level with lots of enemies in it. It wasn't until there that I even really noticed it. Now, with that said, you could, you know, obviously move your hand in front of your face and see that double vision thing. No, that's not what I'm talking about. Right. I'm talking about when you're just playing it and not looking for it. It took, you know, I was well over halfway through the game before I noticed it. But then that's when I realized that it is worse in some levels than it is in others. And it's absolutely there. It still wasn't like terrible for me, but it was absolutely noticeable in some areas. But again, you know, you get out of an area, you move into a place after you beat all the enemies, the demand on the console's resources goes down, and the blurring and ghosting effects go away. I would say it's never quite on the level of like a Horizon. It's never that bad. But I went in with terrible expectations, and then I thought that maybe you were crazy for a little while and seeing stuff that just wasn't there.
Which is totally
and then I
possible.
saw it too. Yeah. And then I saw it too, and then I realized, okay, it is here after all. But again, I didn't ever think it was all that big of a deal. I think it's better to have it looking like this than have it choppy and dropping frames. You know.
Yeah, there's certainly a lot of misconceptions out there. Let's clear up one misconception about me right now. And that comes from Looper, the Underground Game Cat, because this isn't the first time I heard this, Looper. He says, can it be that it's just because you've recently talked about reprojection? Do you know how desperately I wanted to bring up Hubris on Monday's show? Like, I had already played through Hubris and was almost done my review by the time we had done the show on Monday. And so that was the game I was sort of referring to, saying, oh, it's reprojection for me is getting worse. So it's not just because it was on my mind. It was on my mind because of Hubris. So take that and reverse it. Also, I saw in the chat, somebody mentioned that they only experience reprojection. I think Corey Massey said they only experience the reprojection when he's using the right stick to turn. And that's not at all my experience. Like, yes, that happens. I feel like I drop frames more than anything else when I'm turning with the right stick, smooth turning. But it's just moving through the world, climbing, running, jumping, anything. And again, I feel like this is the kind of stuff I was paying attention to in Hubris, like making sure that it wasn't just when I was turning. It's like kind of all the time for me. But it's super reassuring to hear Wes say, like, you know, like I'm really happy that I'm part of like the small percentage of people who like really, really get affected by It seems like it's equal, like 20% or so say they don't see it at all, 20% say I see it and it's really annoying. And the majority are like, yeah, I see it, but it's no big deal.
Yeah, I see it if I look for it. Most of the time I don't see it, but it's not because I'm just not tuned into it at all. Again, it was pretty egregious in Horizon. I don't think it's anywhere near that level here. So
good to hear. Good to hear. Love the different perspectives, and also I love hearing some people left me some comments today saying, "Damn, Brian, your review and AJ's review were super positive," and like that's that's not what we're hearing from other outlets. And so it's not even just about the reprojection; it's about everything when it comes to Hubris. So I can't wait to kind of start hearing what you guys have to say when you start playing it, and if you love it as much as I do, or if you're finding as many issues with it as some other people have. Wes, maybe you can help with Danorama Pajama. The geeky game meow. Did you change it from Game Cat's Pet Llama because it didn't rhyme? Is that what you did? With the 10 quid, he says, Daddy, when you cover Hubris later, good thing we're talking about it right now, please talk to me about the aiming mechanic. Can you use the sights well? So this is something he was asking over on Discord, and I didn't answer because I was like, the whole time I was playing Hubris, the great thing about Hubris is that you can shoot one-handed, or you can grip that gun, and then you get a laser dot. And so that's what I'm using to aim, right? Like it feels like an arcade shooter to me, but I didn't really try to aim down the sights because I didn't need to. Wes, do you have any thoughts on this? Did you aim down the sights at all?
Yeah, some. I kind of let the situation dictate how I aim. So I used a little bit of all. I shot from the hip a whole lot, one-handed. I did a little bit of two-handing and using the laser sight, and I did try aiming down the sights, which, for what it's worth, very accurate. The iron sights on these guns are something that's new that weren't in the original version of the game, and yeah, they work pretty well. When I'm trying to pull off a precision shot from distance, maybe hanging from something because I'm holding something with my offhand. It works. It works every time. They're actually pretty well done. Now, with that said, everyone plays different, and this isn't the type of game where I spend a whole lot of time just slowly getting the aim perfect. This is more of a blast away, right? Pull the trigger, and go, because there's another enemy that's trying to flank you and come up behind you.
Yeah.
So you're always in constant movement, and you have unlimited ammo, so you don't have to worry about pulling the trigger too many times. So I didn't use the sights a whole lot. I probably aimed from, shot from the hip most of the time. But I did try it out, and it does work well.
Good. Yeah, that's really good to hear. It's funny when you get a question like this from like Danorama, and you're like, man, I played this game twice and I still can't answer that question. Like it's just the way that I play games. If it was more of a stealthy game, I feel like I'd be aiming down the sights more. I'd be like crouching behind stuff, and I do like that it is kind of a cover shooter if you want it to be. But still, there's so many enemies sometimes where it's just like stealth is impossible. I don't. That's just not what this game is about.
And there's no rifle. I mean, really, the only thing you're trying to precision shoot with is the pistol. Like the other two weapons, you have a submachine gun, which you're just spraying bullets out of. I mean, you can't shoot super accurate. You can't be a sharpshooter with a submachine gun anyway. And then there's a shotgun, which is for up close combat. So yeah, I mean, you really don't find yourself in too many situations where you're trying to be a long distance sniper. So it's nice that those sights are there, because the occasion does come up every now and then where having that headshot is really helpful. Yeah. But it isn't something you're going to find yourself falling back on very often.
I do like the secondary fire with the shotgun. I don't even think I've mentioned. I think I showed it in the review.
Awesome.
Having not even used the shotgun on my first time through, because I Okay, so I either needed Hubris to be twice as long as it was, right, so that I could keep upgrading my weapons and actually use all of them, or I just needed New Game Plus. And so I was actually surprised at the end. I was like, "Holy crap! I never even used the shotgun once." And so I played through again on the hardest difficulty and made sure I focused on the shotgun. And it's so cool that it has a secondary fire for kind of long range attacks, kind of this homing type missile sort of explosion thing that you can use it for. I thought that was really cool because shotguns typically are, like you said, very much for close range burst attacks.
It's a cool, unique weapon because typically I'm not a shotgun guy. Like, with the exception of Farpoint and a couple other games, I typically steer clear of the shotgun because I'm more of a distance fighter. I don't like to get up close. This game doesn't let you pick in a lot of different situations. So I did unlock the shotgun and start using it. But after you start using it, you realize about the alt fire mode that basically turns your shotgun into a long distance object. So you can approach these firefights, picking guys off from distance and melting them with these, you want to call it a grenade launcher, but it's not exactly a grenade launcher. It works kind of like the disc grenades that you can unlock in Farpoint. So they just kind of glide out and you can use the laser pointer to guide them to where they go. And then when you let go of the trigger, it explodes. So you don't even have to really hit the enemy. Just get in their proximity and let the trigger go, and it'll blow up next to them. And it's really cool. Something that I haven't seen in a whole lot of other games, if any.
I don't want to let some of these tips get too far away from us, Wes. So whether they're on topic or off topic, we're gonna read them out.
For sure.
Dratz Ebb with the $10 tip says, I just dropped $1,000 on PC upgrades so I can play the Cyberpunk expansion in VR. And my wife has, I feel like I shouldn't be reading this out loud in case wifey's nearby. And my wife has no idea, even though she can hear this. Oh, Jesus, I should have read the whole thing first. Maybe wifey doesn't know his screen name. Wish me luck. LOL. Oh, Jesus, dude. Okay.
You're going about this all wrong, dude. What happens in Vegas is supposed to stay in Vegas, bro. This is not how you're supposed to go about it.
Right. Oh man, we definitely need a follow up. We need to know if she heard that or not. Living Legend with the Canadian $5 tip says, "What's good, Game Cats? Based on what you played, does Hellsweeper or Synapse have reprojection, and how close in sharpness are they to Red Matter 2?" So Synapse, we can obviously comment on the demo that we played, not the full game. In the demo, I had mentioned this in my preview that it was using reprojection, but I had to ask, right? Like I literally had to ask because I just didn't really see it while I was playing. But it is reprojected from 60 to 120. But how about Hellsweeper, Wes?
I didn't notice it in Hellsweeper, but again, I was playing Hellsweeper on PC.
Right.
And that game, the pacing in it is just so super fast paced, and the movement is nonstop. It's hard to fixate on things like that when you're playing. You're just trying not to die because there's so many enemies, and you're flipping and wall running and doing all this different stuff. It could be there. I didn't notice it. I had some crashing when I was trying to stream it. Because I was not only playing the game, I was streaming it. I was capturing cameras from Roots and Eric, and overlaying them with OBS. For those of you who caught that stream and saw the difficulty that we were having, I have since gone back in the Hellsweeper on my G2 with it cranked up to 100 and no issues. So that was obviously me trying to do too much other stuff on my PC when I was trying to run that game. But no, I didn't notice any in Hellsweeper. And for what it's worth with Synapse, I mean, you've heard people, praise just how that game looks and how clear and beautiful everything looks in game. It absolutely uses the reprojection, and it was noticeable. But I had to look for it. And honestly, with the exception of the times that Hubris kind of switches up and it gets super heavy, I feel like the majority of Hubris is about on the same level of Synapse, in my experience. Like if you move your hand in front of your face, you can see the doubling on your fingers. If you're going through the tutorial and you do smooth turning in front of the text, you can see the text double. But again, the game's super fast paced, and when you get started playing it, you don't notice it. So again, I feel like reprojections become this really dirty word in the PlayStation community based on kind of the, like you said on Monday, the weaponization of it by the console warriors out there. It's really not that big a deal for most people.
Yeah, and again, like this is not the end of the reprojection discussion, especially on PSVR2. Like the PSVR2 headset's still new, the technology's still new. Was Sony's reprojection system itself is relatively new, and so we're going to see how that evolves. And I think we'll get to a point where reprojection won't even become an issue, and that could be within the next few months or over the next year. Who the hell knows? But this be something we'll be keeping an eye on, obviously. As far as how close these games are into sharpness to Red Matter 2, Red Matter 2 is in a league of its own, right? Because I was playing Masternoid today, and I was like, oh yes, 4K, 120 FPS, no reprojection. How nice. But it's like the simplest looking game ever. Like Red Matter 2 is a beautiful game that also manages to run at 120 FPS natively with no reprojection. So, and at a super high resolution. So don't, we can't judge everything by Red Matter 2. Unfortunately, those guys are wizards.
Yeah, and for what it's worth, Polybius on PSVR1 ran 120 hertz native.
Yeah,
on the old system. With no reprojection, and a lot of your favorite games on PSVR1 that you think are the most beautiful things of that era were running at 45 hertz reprojected to 90. So it's really again become really overblown over the last few months, and just because a game is using it, a lot of games are using it, and you just don't know it.
This is maybe we should save this question until the end of our Hubris discussion, but screw it. Doozy Cat with a 10 plantain says, would Hubris top Horizon in the upcoming top 20?
That's a good question, because they're very different games, and I feel like what Horizon does, it does extremely well. Like I don't want to have the whole top 25 discussion that we're going to have about it now. But there are things that Hubris does better, and there are things that Horizon does better. And there are things that Horizon does that, I don't think I've ever played a better climbing game than Horizon. Like it's a popular genre in VR, especially through the first generation.
Yeah.
This is largely a story-driven climbing adventure. And I've never played a better climbing game. I don't know, man. I think that there's a lot of potential that was left on the table with Horizon. The things that we ended up ultimately saying weren't as game breaking as we expected them to be are still kind of the things that hold them back, like being on a rail during the fights, things like that weren't as bad and egregious as we were afraid that they would be. Still are an overall negative, I feel like, for the game. I feel like they could have made a better game if they weren't so concerned with nerfing it for new players. So I don't know where I'm going to fall on that. I'm glad that they asked the question though, because I need to give that some thought. I don't know. I mean, you got to think Horizon. Not only is it an epic story-driven adventure, there's also twice as much game there.
Yeah.
It's there's a lot more game when you're talking about Horizon versus Hubris.
I'll say this. I think my answer will be much more concise. My apologies. I think the second I finished Hubris, I wanted to play it again. Like as soon as it was over, I was like, yeah, I gotta fucking start this over and play it again.
Good point.
Horizon, I finished it and went, okay, I didn't go back to try to get the platinum. I didn't try to go back to get all of the hidden hunters targets or whatever they're called. I kind of want to, but I didn't have that drive to be like, I need to play this right away and go back and do all of this. Kind of speaking to Beard of Powers' question in the chat, he said, is there a platinum trophy for Hubris? Does it need more than one playthrough? Yeah, dude, like if you want to get the platinum trophy in Hubris, you need to play a bunch of times. Like, there's so many ridiculous trophies. I was tempted, because it's going to be so time consuming to get the platinum in Hubris. I was tempted to call it a hard platinum, but really it's not. It's just time consuming. You just kind of got to go through one by one and go, all right, I got to go jump off of a ledge 10 times and die. Now I got to go do this. I got to go shoot this number of this creature. It's like, it's just very time consuming. So it might take you longer to do. The point is, I just really kind of fell in love with Hubris in a way that I didn't fall in love with Horizon. And I just really enjoyed being in this world. And I think the big moments, and this might be crazy to say, I think the big moments in Hubris were more impactful, more memorable, kind of hit me harder narratively than anything that happened in Horizon. And I think for those moments alone, that's I think that's what would put Hubris above Horizon. This wasn't nearly as concise as I thought it was going to be, Wes. Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's because you're a VR nerd like me and you love talking about this stuff. I'd say that it's a bit of an apples and oranges comparison. The one thing that they have in common is as you work your way through the campaign, you'll in either game you'll find yourself from time to time stopping and taking in this breathtaking panoramic view and just going, "Wow, look at that! It's crazy that this is in VR." That's about the extent of the similarity between the two games.
Yeah.
They're very different other than that.
I think that if Horizon had the gameplay variety and the depth of gameplay mechanics that Hubris has, we'd be having a much different conversation. In just the inventory system alone, the crafting, the weapons. I take it back. It's been a little while since I played Horizon, so I forgot about all the different arrows you get in Horizon, which is pretty cool, and all the different climbing gear. And that's another thing. I think when it comes to the top 20, I'm gonna have to go back and replay some of these games so I don't minimize, the impact that they might have had.
Yeah, you're right. What you said about not wanting to go directly back in and play it right after you finish it. But now, 3 months out, now that we're talking about it and I'm starting to think about it, it's like, I wouldn't mind getting back in there and playing it again now.
Yeah. Ooh, Man Bear Pig Game Cat. He does exist, Wes, with the $2 tip. Asked if Hubris looks better on PSVR2 than its PC counterpart.
A little. It does. It has more fidelity and more detail, particularly when it comes to distant areas and objects. Like what's directly in front of you looks very similar. The difference being when you play on PC, it was almost kind of like when you first went in the Horizon and you looked out into the distance and everything kind of had a softness to it. Mm-hmm. Hubris was kind of like that on PC, but maybe not that egregious. But there was a little softness in distant objects on PC. Which weirdly wasn't the case with the demo. Like everything was super crisp and clean in the early Hubris demo, but by the time it was released on PC, you could tell they had optimized it and it lost some of that detail in the wash. Well, that's back here now, and even to a greater extent maybe than it was originally. And no, it's absolutely beautiful. And I've seen a lot of people say that it looks identical. But I feel like these people just haven't been in the PC version in a while and remember it being a little bit better than it actually turned out to be. I absolutely think it looks better on PlayStation than it did on PC, but just a little better.
Nice. That's really good to hear. It had been a while since I played Hubris on PC. I had played the just the demo during that Steam Fest last year. I remember it being like really nice, really clear, and fairly comparable to what's happening on PSVR2. But again, I just didn't have any of the reprojection on PC VR. I think that was the only difference that I saw.
Right. Right.
Wes, what stands out for with Hubris for you? What I mean, this is I'm fortunate to have like gotten my 7-minute concise little review out already. What where do you kind of stand on this game? If it was if you were to have a quick little 7-minute concise review out as well right now, are you like? Do you think? I said at the beginning of this episode that a lot of people had already have reviewed this way lower than I had, way lower than AJ and I had. Where do you fall?
Well, I'm certainly closer to you than them, but I want to first of all push back a little bit on the notion that the reviews are largely mixed, because I've been watching the reviews
Because I haven't, so
most of
that's
today.
good to hear.
Yeah, there's a couple of them that were more negative than you guys were, but for what it's worth, even the ones that are supposedly negative, everyone recommended people buy it. It was more of a, the ones that were negative were saying it's not a must own. It's good. If you like this type of game, you're going to want to pick it up. It's not among the elite, AAA big budget games. So those are what the negative reviews say. The negative reviews say, but there's not that many of them out there. Largely, what I've seen from the notable content creators, people are loving it. And yeah, you're a little bit on the high end. Most people are giving it 8.5, out of 10. And you guys gave it like a 9. And I tend to be closer to that camp. I think it's a very good game. What really surprised me about it, everyone knew it was going to be a beautiful game. What really surprised me about Hubris was the diversity of gameplay. It isn't just a run and gun arcade shooter. There's a lot of exploration. There's a heavy exploration element to it with regard to resource gathering for upgrades. And then there are some pretty intense platforming parts with, climbing and jumping and stuff. The bigger levels, have multiple paths through them, and you can take a stealth path, or you can, go in gung ho, and you can see very clearly how the developers designed the level so that no matter what your play style, there's a path there for you to take. So the diversity of gameplay was the biggest surprise for me with the title overall. It is exceptional, in the top percentile in terms of production value. And, originally on Steam, that mainly was visual. And now with the update, I feel like the audio kind of matches the visual. The ambient soundtrack in this game is excellent and implemented very well. So production values are off the chart. Diversity of gameplay is pretty awesome. The story's okay. I like the premise of it. I felt that there could have been more of it. I mean, it gets a little more story heavy later in the game, which was cool. I would like for it to have been more like that early, and I feel like the game could have got going a little earlier. Like the first level, the demo or whatever, even like the second part, like directly after when the demo ends, that section can seem a little bit tedious compared to the rest of the game. So I felt like they could have got into it, maybe introduced another enemy type or two earlier on. But for the most part, I think it's great. I think it's a great game. I think that it makes good use of the sense controllers, and it does stuff that we don't see often on console games. Like there are options available here, like graphics options and stuff that typically we don't see on PlayStation games. Yeah, man, I just think it's very good. It's a unique game. It's something that seems like it's a big budget game from a big studio, when in all reality it's from an indie studio, and it's really well done, especially when you consider that this is a first VR offering from Cyborn. They're only going to get better in subsequent titles going forward. So, I'm closer to you guys than I am the 6 and 7 out of 10 crowd out there, which is a very small percent from what I can tell.
Yeah, I'm just hearing other people tell me like, oh, this is what this person gave it. And I was like, that's great. I kind of, no offense to any other content creator out there, like I kind of only care what I think about it, except for Wes because he's here. I want to be nice and respectful, but I gotta say, man, it's something I might have mentioned. I can't remember which ending I used in my review because I wrote it and rewrote it a couple times. But one of the endings, and it might be in the review, is that I'm sort of surprised we haven't gotten more games like this in VR, like because it sort of does everything we want. It kind of makes me go, why the fuck? Like we didn't. I had this weird complaint for PSVR 1. It was like, well, why didn't we just have way more first person shooters on PSVR 1, right? Like why weren't more games, like we're going to see it like Bulletstorm and we saw it with Doom 3 VR, but why weren't more first person shooters brought into VR earlier on? And then you have the games like Hubris that say, hey, here's climbing and here's crafting and here's exploration and here's swimming. Like swimming was really well done in Hubris. And here's shooting and here's jumping and here's whatever. And it's just everything you want. It's like Blood and Truth if they let you go off the rails. Like I actually like this game better than Blood and Truth. I think this is a higher quality and less, the cutscenes were less obtrusive. And I just don't understand why we haven't gotten more games like this. And I think if we had been getting more games like this over the course of the last 7 years, then I wouldn't be so impressed by Hubris. But Hubris kind of like finally delivers on this thing that like I just kind of expect VR games to be. And because it's finally doing that, I think I give it maybe more credit than it deserves, but no one else is doing it. So like, so hats off to Cyborn for doing the shit that we've been wanting for 7 years. And they said that they've been, that this universe is so big, right? When I interviewed Kuhn Vendenstein last year or 2 years ago, he said that the creator of the studio who wrote the Hubris lore has enough content for 10 games if they decide to do that. And I think this is an interesting introduction into this world and an interesting introduction into these characters because it's like, it's mildly interesting, but I feel like it can go so far. And so if Hubris Episode 2 comes out, Hubris Part 2, whatever they call it, like it'll be one of my most anticipated games because they've shown what they can do. And I think they're just going to keep taking that further, taking this formula that I've been wanting games to use and just expand on it. And that's what I need. That's what I need in VR. It's fun.
Yeah. It makes me wonder where, what the status of Lawn on PSVR2 is because, the story of Lawn is a very similar story of Hubris. They both launched super late last year. Like it was like December of last year that they launched. I feel like they both didn't really get a fair shake in the reviews, and I think they got largely overlooked because of when they launched. And now we're seeing Hubris's redemption story before our very eyes on a new platform. And I'd love to see something similar with Lawn because that's another super high quality game with a lot of diversity of gameplay and a big world and a cool aesthetic that most people don't know about because it largely went under the radar late last year. So 6 Sense Studios, we want to know what you're up to.
Yeah. Lawn has definitely been confirmed for PSVR 2, but yeah, you're right. They've definitely gone kind of quiet on that. So maybe an update would be nice. Let's end our Hubris discussion, Wes, with a question from Pietrek F with the 12 plantains. Says Hubris or Star Wars Tales from the Galaxy's Edge? And I'm so happy that you're here for this question because I think above and beyond everybody else, you and I were the two that enjoyed Tales from the Galaxy's Edge on PSVR 2 more than most. Where do you stand? Which one's better?
I mean, in terms of in terms of almost everything, Hubris is better.
Mm-hmm.
Like Star Wars is a Star Wars game, so you obviously you have that awesome Star Wars storytelling going on there, and that whole vibe that comes with the John Williams music and the recognizable characters and all that nostalgia. But in terms of like production value, I feel like they're very similar. I think graphically, Hubris is a little bit ahead of Star Wars Tales from the Galaxy's Edge. I feel in terms of gameplay, Hubris is ahead by a pretty comfortable margin.
Yeah.
Not only because of the diversity of gameplay, but I mean the gunplay is just more well done. And you know, with that aside, even the flow of the game is much more smooth in Hubris. It's very disjointed in Tales from the Galaxy's Edge, as you know, that has that kind of episodic thing that's going on where you're jumping back and forth between the main campaign story and then little mini stories, which is cool. Again, being in the Star Wars universe, to inhabit so many different characters and take, you know, visit so many different locations. It's very cinematic, you know, the Star Wars game. But in terms of what's the better game, I mean, you strip the Star Wars stuff away, and it's pretty clearly that Hubris is a better game.
Yeah. Yeah. I really enjoyed Tales from the Galaxy's Edge. I thought some parts were really slow. That it felt like they were just there for padding. And I was like, you know, the almost all the parts where you use a lightsaber are kind of lame, right? And it's just like, man, why they only threw that in so they can say, oh, we got to use a lightsaber in VR, right? And it's like, well, they should have found a way to make that part of the full campaign and made it more exciting, to like a better combat with the lightsaber. Yeah, I don't know. Tales was really fun. I liked it a lot. But yeah, Hubris, as far as I'm concerned, is the better adventure. And Shapeshifter in the chat asks how long it is. He says, I'm slow, an exploring kind of player. I'm also slow. I like taking my time and exploring all the environments. It's crazy because I thought I explored everything on my first run through, but then when I went back to play it again, I started really just climbing everything, jumping up on top of boxes and seeing what ledges I can climb. And there's so much more to explore than I initially thought. And so my first run through of Hubris took 6 hours, almost on the dot. And I know a lot of people in the chat have been saying it's a 4 or 5 hour game. It took me 6 hours, but I take my time. I like to explore and collect as much shit as I possibly can. So Shapeshifter, that's probably where you'll be at, around the 6 hour mark.
Yeah, I agree with that. It took me closer to 8, but I played around a lot. You know, trying to break the game, find glitches, explore the boundaries, and find holes, and just I mess around a lot instead of just playing the game the way it was intended to be played. So I think 6 hours is a fair estimate. Although I did start on the top difficulty, and I did die quite a few times going through it. I found it challenging.
Nice. Yes. That's what I like to hear. Yeah. Because I didn't think it was very challenging on the normal difficulty. Really, if you want a good challenge, you want it to feel tense, you want to be concerned about your health, you want to worry about dying, then yeah, veteran difficulty, the hardest difficulty is where it's at.
Yeah, for sure.
Not the biggest news of the day. I don't know if you guys are aware, but there's a game called Masternoid that came out on the PlayStation VR2 store. And it's a little indie game. It's here, I'm just gonna I played it for I was gonna go in and play it for like 10 minutes just so we could talk about it a little bit today. And I ended up playing it for half an hour. I didn't want to stop, but I had other shit to do. And
Right.
I had a lot of fun with this. This is very much an update on the classic Breakout Arkanoid formula, the brick breaker genre. What did you think, Wes?
I think that there's certain game concepts that are just timeless and they just work if you give it a chance and sit down and play it. You know, it doesn't have to be super complicated. We don't have to go on a crazy faraway adventure in outer space to have fun. It can, you know, certain gaming concepts are tried and true over time, and I feel like Brick Breaker is just one of those. And to experience it in VR does add something here, right? The way that they've implemented it, the way that you control the ball, so to speak, and the way that you experience these breakable blocks in 3 dimensions, it definitely adds something to the game. Again, they're not reinventing the wheel here. They're bringing a very tried and true concept over into VR, and it is extremely simple. But it's one of those games that puts you in a zone. You start playing it and you just tune everything else out. It's very satisfying to break these blocks, and when you get it in that right pocket and it just starts going to work for itself, super satisfying. And just like the original, just like it always has been. So yeah, I agree. I enjoyed this game. I'm not going to go recommend anybody drop $30 on it. I don't know what it costs, but if it's fair, priced fairly, there is definitely fun to be had here.
Yeah, this is like if anybody's confused by what's going on here, like because it looks like you have a gun in your hand, and you shoot the ball back, but when you grab the trigger and you can kind of whip the ball into a certain direction, and you're the better you do, you'll get like multipliers. You'll just like pinball, you'll get like multi balls going on, and so and it's funny because the game is very cognizant of like how intense that is, and so every time you get a second ball on the screen or a third ball all going at the same time, it kind of pulls you away from the action a little bit, so you have a little bit more reaction time to interact with these things, and it's just pleasant, man. This is running at 120 FPS. This is running at 4K, and it's not doing anything. It's not pushing the limits graphically, but it does look nice in the headset. I think my only real complaint is that like this is a game that I want to recommend for like $5 or $10, and the fact that it hits the $15 price point. Like we've seen what like you get Runner for $25, right? Or no, I'm sorry, you get Runner for $15. You get Runner for the same price as this, and so I'm just like, oh, it's just a little bit too much. But that said, like, this is one of those games that you just put on your wish list and wait for a sale and grab it the first time at $7.50 because it's just nice, and I love the power ups, everything. I just feel like is really, really well done.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like my first impression is that this is a $10 game. With that said, like you, I only played a few minutes. This thing might end up having 100 levels and just turn out to be more awesome than even we were expecting. But right now, it feels like a $10 game. I don't think 15's egregious or anything, but it's maybe a little more than I would have expected for a game like this. But with that said, the gun mechanic's cool. It kind of works like the tether gun in Evasion, where you can just grab enemies and toss them with the aim controller. That's kind of how this works with the way you control the ball. And it does look good in the headset, and the power ups are super cool. Like the dome that you can place over the blocks and just have it kind of bounce off of every direction. You can have like firepower. You can turn your ball into a bomb, and all that stuff translates very well to 3D space. So yeah, I agree. It's a very fun and engaging experience that grabs you and doesn't want to let go. This is something that you get addicted to pretty quickly. This is what we call palate cleanser. This is a great palate cleanser. When you're coming off a 2-hour session in an intense high action game and you don't want to stop playing, but you don't quite want to play something that intense. This is a type of game that you put on and just kind of wind down for a little while and just zone out. And it is a good game, and it is fun to play.
Agreed. Yeah, and I do feel like this is a genre that somehow doesn't really get old. It works pretty much in every generation of consoles I think I've ever played. There's a PlayStation 1 version of this game, of this style of game. And then there was, like, I remember on PlayStation 3, I think I just saw somebody, Matthew Longo in the chat, said bring Shatter to VR. Shatter is the last Brick Breaker game that I remember playing before this one, and that was on PlayStation 3.
Well, except
Jesus,
Pixel Rip 1978. We played Brick Breaker last week.
That's right. I completely forgot about that. There is a moment.
Yeah.
And then there was also like, I feel like there were 10 different PlayStation VR 1 games that all sort of had the same formula, right? There was even the one that came in PSVR Worlds where you like hit it with your face. I forget what it was. Yeah. And then Proton Pulse, I think, was another one. Yeah, there was just a handful for a little while. I like this better than all of those.
Yeah, for sure.
The music's great,
This
by the
has
way.
that vibe. It kind of has that. Well, I mean, I want to say Jeff Minter vibe, but it's not. It's not that crazy over the top. Like Minter will melt your brain with this stuff. This feels like maybe one of Jeff Minter's menu screens. It's got that same look to it, but there's not mushrooms and llamas and stuff flying out of every corner of your peripheral vision.
That's what this game's missing. It's llamas.
100%.
Llamas. Yeah. To your point about how long the game is, though, within the half hour that I played, you do get a pretty decent idea how many levels you've completed and how many chapters you've completed. I feel like if I spend another hour with this game, I'll have seen it all.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. But it's also about beating your high score and all that too. So if you care about that kind of stuff, then there's some replayability.
There are
here.
leaderboards.
Yeah,
there are leaderboards too.
Right. And there's not many people on them currently. Yeah. TJ Perry in the chat with the $2 tip says Juneteenth is June 19th every year, Mr. Paul. I did not know that. I apologize. I don't know any holiday, in all fairness. Especially now that I don't leave my apartment to go to work. I don't know any holidays. I show up and somebody goes, "Hey, happy President's Day, happy Labor Day." I go, "Cool."
People say that to you? People don't say that to me.
I don't know. I need better friends, Wes. More interesting friends. Get in the elevator, they're like, "How's the weather?" And I'm like, "Fuck yourself." It's like, we're not talking about that shit today. How's the weather? I walk around in the summertime saying, "How about this heat?" Okay.
I prefer awkward silence to small talk. That's just me.
The awkwarder, the better, as far as I'm concerned. And guys, I'm sure if you're astute and you've been paying attention to the PlayStation Store or Shell Games Twitter account, you noticed that Until You Fall got a PSVR2 release today. We've been talking about that quite a bit over the last week or two, waiting for it to happen, and it did. The good thing is that it happened. The bad thing is that I haven't had a chance to play it. Neither has Wes, so we don't know what the upgrades are like. Also, the bad thing is that you have to pay for it again. There's no upgrade path. It is $25. Was a fantastic game on PlayStation VR1. So as long as there's nothing critically wrong with the PSVR2 version, and you haven't played it on PSVR1, if you didn't already play it on Quest or someplace else, amazing game. I think I gave it a 9 out of 10. So it's Hubris level of quality, you guys. And you really, if you like roguelites, if you like a real challenge, I mean, go watch my old review. I love this game. So Miles and I will hopefully be able to take a little bit of a deeper dive and talk about it on Friday's episode for you.
It's a tough game. Intense battle and hard to progress in, especially at first.
It's a good workout.
But it isn't. Yeah, it is engaging, and as most Shell Games titles are, it's very well done. So,
yeah. Serial Killer in the chat says, "I bet you know when Independence Day is, 4th of July." And I'm like, "Yeah, okay, but you know what? It wasn't until very recently. I'm like way too old to not know basic shit, okay? But it wasn't until very recently that I learned when Thanksgiving was. Right? It's always the third Thursday in November. Is that right? It's like, I didn't know. I just wait for somebody to say, "Hey, Thanksgiving is next Thursday. You going to come over?" I'm like, "Yeah, okay." Right? Christmas, for whatever reason, I thought Christmas was the 24th of December for the longest time. That's not true.
That's when we open presents. When I was a kid, we always opened them on Christmas Eve.
Nice. Yeah, I'm like I feel like I'm relatively smart when it comes to a lot of things, but things that everybody knows, not so much. I feel like I missed a class at some point. Like I was sick the day they taught common sense in school. And so I'm missing a lot of that.
Well, I mean, they don't even teach it in school anymore, so that's fine.
That's fucking true. All right, man. It's time, before we get onto that topic, let's get on to a different topic, and that's PlayStation VR 20 questions. Wes is the host, which means he's picked out a PlayStation VR 1 or 2 game, and I need you guys, all your help, because we only have 6 minutes and 20 yes or no questions to figure out what PlayStation VR 1 or possibly PSVR 2 or possibly both game Wes has picked out. Wes, are you ready?
Almost. Let me get this page back.
Okay,
up.
that's cool because I got to write like my
Okay.
little yes or no chart anyway. Yes. No. Dude, this entire journal, somebody bought me this journal, right? Oh no one bought me this journal. This came in a like Loot Crate or Geek Fuel box or something. And the entire thing is just filled up with the exact same shit. It's yes and no charts for for video game 20 questions. It's ridiculous. That's it. I wonder if
That's awesome.
I wonder if we went through all the charts, if we could figure out what the games were, because I never write down the answer.
You know, that's a good point. I think I sometimes feel like I pick the same 10 games over and over again, but I wouldn't know it because I always forget. I can remember what I did last time, but beyond that, I just flush all of it.
Oh my God, Zach Lightning, are you in my fucking soul right now? Dude, I said everybody knows. And in my head, I was like, everybody knows. I was thinking fucking Leonard Cohen in my head. And Zach Lightning in the chat writes Leonard Cohen. Dude, I've had way too much caffeine because I'm way too impressed by that.
You know, when you said everybody knows, it put Stone Temple Pilots in my head.
Okay.
That late single that they put out, everybody knows how the story really goes.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Remember that?
We all can sing along. Yeah.
That's what happened to me.
Something about a photograph. Is that Tripping on a Hole in a Paper Heart? Is that song?
Yeah. Well, no.
Or that Jumpin' Jack Flash? I don't fucking know, dude. It's
Big Bang Baby, Big Bang Baby. It's a smash.
So, you know the chat's gonna fucking clear this up for us in a second.
For sure.
Yeah, that was just their second album, wasn't it? Like, wasn't that on Purple?
I want to say that it was on the third album, the one after that. Oh, weird! I just had deja vu. It's been a while, but I just had it.
Yeah.
So I've definitely picked this game before, for sure.
Kill Artist 1, the Dreamweaver Game Cat with the $5 tip says, they only chose that date because my birthday is the coolest day and I am awesome. LOL. Happy belated, Kill Artist. I think we said happy birthday. If not, I apologize. If so,
happy
awesome.
Birthday.
Hell yeah.
My birthday's coming up, Brian. It's like next week.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Sunday. I think Sunday.
It's on Sunday. Okay. I gotta remember that. I'm not gonna remember that.
No, you don't. No, you don't. You don't have to remember it, dude. I'm so old that it just don't even matter. It's not even a thing anymore. Like, maybe 2 of the 5 people that live with me, or 2 of the 4 people that live with me, might say happy birthday. The other 2 won't even mention it, and that's fine because I'll probably forget.
2 of the 4 people that live with you, your roommates?
Yeah. No, my wife and children.
Right. I know. It's funny. It's a funny way to phrase family.
Yeah.
The people who live with me. Macho Vasquez with $2 tip says, UC Tabor got an update. Reviews are good. What's UC Tabor? Oh, did we see? Like, did UC Tabor get an update? Reviews are good. Hi guys. That's a lot of thoughts without enough punctuation. Hi, Matt.
I knew that there was an update coming. They've been waiting for quite some time to be able to put this build out because there's been some notable exploits in the last build, and there was something with the way that the updates roll out that they couldn't fix it right away. So over time, it got worse and worse with people just cheating. Which I don't understand in a looter shooter why people want to cheat. Like, it takes all the fun out of it. Like, what's the point? You know,
why do people want to cheat anyway, Wes? People cheat in all sorts of games. People cheat in Fortnite. It's like, what was the point? Like, what? Do you feel good about? I mean, I'm sure some people do, but I don't know. Looper the Underground Game Cat with the €2 says, did you cover the game from the trailer playing? Yeah, that's why we started the trailer, Looper, because we were talking about Until You Fall. Just scroll back a little bit. Actually, but don't scroll back yet because you are our 20 questions timekeeper. All right. Are we caught up? Did we get caught up on?
Yeah.
Okay, we got caught up on tips. All right, and you've got a game ready. Did you keep your deja vu game or no? or is that
I did.
okay?
I did, and I'm sure I picked this before, maybe twice before, but we're going with it again.
If I had any kind of memory, that would be helpful for me, but sadly, nothing. All right, on your mark, get Des, go. Does this game have multiplayer?
No.
Is this game on PSVR1 or has it been announced? I'm sorry. Is this game on PSVR2 or announced for PSVR2? Either one?
No.
Okay, so it's PSVR1 only, you guys, with no multiplayer. So, not bad. Does this game use the Move controllers?
No.
Does this game use the aim controller?
No.
Okay, guys, so we're looking at a DualShock 4 only, potentially, game. Okay, everybody in the chat is having their own conversations, and they're not helping me. They are somewhere else. Looper asks, is it horror-themed?
Kinda, yeah.
Oh, we are on to it, guys. Horror, kinda, yeah. I wrote it down. I wrote all 3 words down. Would you say this is a puzzle game?
No.
Okay, sorry, Looper, not transference. Thank you, Christopher Emma Home. Imhome. God damn it, with the 20 sec roast. Thank you for doing what you do. Much love from us. Much love from us to you, Christopher. Just reverse that. Send it back to yourself. We love you. Is there locomotion in this game? Do you move around rather than stand in one place? Ooh, he's got to think about it. I love it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm pretty sure.
Okay. Let's clarify that even further. Full locomotion?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, guys. Kind of horror themed. Full locomotion. PSVR 1 only, not PSVR 2. DualShock 4.
Yeah, and for the record, most people would call this a horror game. It's not just horror elements. Like it's a scary game.
Okay. Master Mick is throwing the persistence out there. Is this a roguelite?
It is.
Whoa. Was this made by Firesprite?
It was.
Holy shitballs. Move Master Mick has a better memory than I do. Is this the persistence?
It is indeed the persistence. And what a shame, Brian, that we don't have this on PSVR 2 yet. This being a first party studio now and being one of the best games on PSVR 1.
Really is.
Where's the persistence remaster? Like I'm ready. I need it.
Where is our persistence Fragments of Fate?
Yeah, for real.
Well, and so we were talking about that a little bit, I think, on Friday's episode. Miles and I were talking about the potential. Now, this is obviously pure speculation, but isn't it so weird that Sony has all of these great VR games that they spent all this money making, and then the ones that we've actually gotten from them, or ones that they've funded, the ones we've actually gotten from them have been like really enhanced versions. Like Song in the Smoke Rekindled was a huge upgrade from the original, and then Wanderer is a massive upgrade. Is it possible that the reason we haven't seen all of these games like The Persistence, like Astrobot, like Blood and Truth, like Everybody's Golf VR is because Sony's got everybody back to the drawing board going, make this, but make it better. Give us the 1.5 version of this. Is that possible?
And it's certainly possible in this case because there's a lot of room for improvement. I mean, this game, as immersive as it is, it's certainly not VR AF. This game came out on Steam VR and still used the same kind of gamepad style controls that it used on PlayStation. With that said, I don't think that there's a better example of first-person gamepad VR than The Persistence. They did a very good job of making people forget that you're playing with a gamepad. The hand and arm models and animations are are so well done in this game. And the traditional controller, it's something that we've used for so many thousands and thousands of hours that you kind of just forget about it, and everything becomes reaction at a certain point. So it's great. It's great the way it is, but at the same time, it would be great if they redid it, maybe kind of reshuffled some of the levels. And for the record, I know they reshuffle every time you die, but
Right.
the sections of the levels are written. It's just what order that they're in that changes. They could do they can completely write how those sections are laid out. Maybe put in a few new enemies, give you full 6 DoF with motion controller support, and upgrade the graphics a little bit, and you've got a whole new game here that's amazing.
I mean, a couple new enemy types, right? A couple more interesting rooms to explore. Maybe some more weapons to unlock. Yeah, absolutely. Having 2 hands in the game. There's so much potential here for a huge improvement. I would love the Persistence 1.5. And that's and the only way to maintain my sanity, Wes, and think where are these games, is to think that this is where they are. That they are back in development. And everybody's golf VR 1.5 is going to have full multiplayer support with not just 3 courses. I mean, like, this is the kind of stuff that I need just to get through a day. I just need to lie to myself, Wes. It's amazing how easily it comes.
And you see, VR being still an emerging technology, and the numbers that had PSVR1 being relatively low compared to traditional gaming, this is a good way for Sony to give us these high quality games without having to invest in starting from scratch and building up. Like giving us these 1.5 version of Gen 1 games. Yeah, a lot of us are going to be familiar with the originals, but if this generation goes the way that we want it to go, this is going to be brand new for a lot of people, and for, again, a relatively small amount of investment in terms of time and money. Hopefully we start to see these games showing up sooner rather than later.
Agreed. Looper, the Underground Game Cat, chiming in with the €5, about 20 questions, says, the Persistence has been picked twice before, never by Wes. October 14, 2022, Miles to Brian. And November 7th, 2022, AJ to Brian. Brian has guessed it all 3 times. So heads up, co-hosts. Stop picking the Persistence.
I still remember when you tried the demo for the first time and how over the moon you were about it.
Yeah. Yep. And dude, and there's some, you know me, man. I'm a retro gamer. I'm all about game preservation, and I love whenever I discover like a new version of something that like it's like, oh, remember this game that you love? Well, here it's been ported to another system that you never knew, or like they started porting it to another system, or here's a demo that's like a wildly different version of the game, but back when it was in its pre-alpha stage. And that's exactly what we got. We got something like 2 or 3 Persistence demos. And that first one looks radically different than the game that we got. And so if you have Demo Disc Volume 1, go back and play that demo, because if it was on Demo Disc Volume 1, I'm pretty sure it was.
I think it was 2.
You think it was 2? Okay, because I know it showed up on another demo disc later on, and so I didn't know if it was 2 and 3 or 1 and 2 or what it was. But it looks radically different. It's like almost a different art style. You can see that they really handcrafted the rooms that you see, and I think they realized very quickly, because it's like I don't know, somebody's daughter's photographs or whatever. It says it says happy birthday in this dude's dorm, this dormitorium area, and it's like. Or that kind of stuff. It's also handcrafted. I think eventually the developers were like, we can't do this to enough sections of room to make the whole game procedurally generated. We actually have to make the game look more generic for it to work right. And I think that's what happened between the original demo we got and then the next demo, and of course the final game. So, but I'm glad that exists, because it was really fucking cool. And if they could do that with like a Persistence 1.5 and kind of handcraft more of what we see. Amazing.
Yeah, and absolutely, I think that's a possibility for them. Although they are in a very different place now and working on multiple titles at once. And while we're on the topic, $7.50 for this game right now on the PlayStation Store.
Crazy. Is this part of the sale that's going on? There's like a massive sale on the PlayStation Store. Is it just part of that?
I would assume so. Yeah, it's 75% off with PS Plus.
Yeah. Well, I'll do my best to kind of go through all the sales and see if there's anything worth noting. That this one is obviously worth noting. If anybody's still on PSVR1 and you haven't played this, amazing. You got to play it. $7.50.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
Tough. It's hard, man. It's a hard game to play, but it's fun.
It is. And I keep being reminded, Wes, how much I suck at roguelikes, because everybody that I talked to beat this game. It tells you at the end how many tries it took you, how many deaths you had. And I had like 40 or something. Like, it was way more than most people. I had 2 to 3 times more deaths than most people, I think. So I suck.
It's okay.
Okay. All right, you guys, it's time to get going. I got a C-Smash review to keep working on. Not to mention, I don't know, I kind of want to finish Masternoid, which is a terrible name. It's a terrible name. I get it. It's a play on Arkanoid. Masternoid just sounds icky. I don't know what to say.
Did someone else already do one called VR2? Because it just makes too much sense.
Oh, I wonder if that's too close, right? Like, is that name still copyrighted? There's no way Taito's still in business. Did they make that game? I don't know. Good shit. Guys, don't forget, head on over to Virtual Strangers. Click the link in the description below. Hang out with Wes and his friends, especially if you like long-form content. That's what I fell in love with that channel for. That's why Wes is here, because the long-form content over there is awesome. It's like the kind of stuff you just want to have on while you're like cooking or cleaning the house. It's just like listening to some long podcast. It's good stuff. So click the link in the description, subscribe to Wes and his friends that talk about not just PlayStation VR2, but all VR agnostic, as we say. And thank you for being here today, Wes. I really appreciate it, as always.
Well, thank me, Brian. No,
thank you, Wes.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for having me. It was fun, as it typically is. It was a lot of fun.
And thank you, everybody that helps the channel run financially, of course, over on patreon.com/withoutparolegames, and over here, if you're a member, on youtube.com/withoutparolegames. Also, everybody who tips during the chat, we really appreciate that. Everyone who helps during 20 questions, everyone who shoots the shit during the show, and of course, everybody who sits back and watches the show and doesn't say a goddamn word. We know you're out there. We love you just as much. Happy West Day, Wes.
Happy West Day, Brian.
Ruthless Metal in the chat says, Wes is the king of long-ass content. Not long-form, long-ass. Sirens on my end. I like it. All right. We're just going to say goodbye. Things got real quiet.